Now, these sets were so elaborate that many people attended the theater more for them than for the actors or the stories. At the time, people were wild for travel and for experience new places. People were wild. Be wild. Hmm. Hmm. Travel around for experience new places. But not everyone could afford it. Rutenberg outdid himself, however, with a show that he set up in his own home. Rutenberg outdid himself, however, with a show that he set up in his own home. He called it Idiohusken. Outdid himself. Idiohuskan means something like representation of nature, and that's exactly what he intended to do. Create realistic moving scenes that change before the audience's eye. In this, he synthesized all his tricks from Drury Lane: mechanical motion, sound, light as special effects to create, if you will, an early multimedia production, if you will. If you will. if we will. The spaceship is a tool, if you will. An early multimedia production. The idea of Fuscan was Rutenberg's attempt to release painting from the constraints of the picture frame. After all, even the most action-filled, exciting painting can represent only one moment in time. And any illusion of movement is gone after the first glance. But But Rutenberg, like other contemporary painters, wanted to add the dimension of time to his paintings. The popular thinking is that Rutenberg was influenced by landscape painting. But why can't we say that the Idefuscan actually influenced the painters? At the very least, we have to consider that it was more of a mutual thing. We know, for example, that the important English landscape painter Thomas Gainsborough attended almost all of the early performances, and his later paintings are notable for their increased color and dynamic use of light. Rutenberg's influence on the theater, though he was incredibly influential. The way he brought together design and writing and sound as a united feature of the stage can easily be seen in English theater's subsequent emphasis on lighting and motion. Now, the Eidolfskan stage was actually a box, a few meters wide, a couple meters tall, and a couple meters deep. That is, the action took place within this box. This was much smaller, of course, than the usual stage, but it also allowed Rutenbows to concentrate the lighting to better effect. Also, the audience was in the dark, which shouldn't be a common feature of the theater until 100 years later. The show consisted of a series of scenes, for example, a view of London from sunrise that changes as the day moves on. Mechanical figures such as cattle moved across the scene and ships sailed along the river. But what really got people was the attention to detail, much like his work in Drury Lane. So, for example, he painted very realistic ships and varied their size depending on their distance from the audience. Small boats moved more quickly across the foreground than larger ones did that were closer to the horizon. Other effects, like waves, were also very convincing. They reflected sunlight or moonlight depending on the time of day or night. Even the colors changed as they would in nature. Sound and light were important in making his productions realistic. He used a great number of lights, and he was able to change colors of light by using variously colored pieces of glass to create an effect like passing clouds that suddenly change in color. Furthermore, he used effects to make patterns of shadow and light. Pattern pattern of shadow and light rather than using the uniform lighting that was common at the time, and many of the sound effects he pioneered are still in use today, like creating thunder by playing on one of the corners of a thin copper sheet. One of his most popular scenes was of a storm, and there is a story that on one occasion an actual storm passed overhead during the show, and some people went outside and they claimed the Rooting Ball's thunder was actually better than the real thunder.